Hey, we're bringing in a guest, and her topic today kind of has to do with the election because we heard, and whether this was true or not with all the fake news out there, we don't know. We had heard that gun sales had been on the rise leading up to the election. The question is, will the fact that Donald Trump is president-elect slow those sales? We're bringing in gun law analyst Michele Byington this morning. Good morning, Michele. How are you?
Hi, Michele.
Good morning. Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
I would just like to tell you that I noticed you have one L in your name. Is that correct?
That is correct.
My cousin Michelle, who also spells her name with one L, says that's the correct way to spell it, and she would give you a big thumbs up this morning.
Oh, fantastic. I tell everybody that my mother misspelled my name. It's not my fault.
Anyway, we go to talking about this election and how does the fact that Donald Trump is the president-elect affect gun sales now? Will they continue to rise, or are we going to see a little leveling off?
If I were a betting woman, I would think that they would level off. I think we're going to hit a plateau and kind of see sales sort to steady out. And I believe that's because there is one big thing that motivates Americans to do anything, and that is fear. And any time that you've got a president or even a presidential nominee who looks to be ahead in the polls, much like we had with Hillary Clinton throughout the entire election, that fear starts to motivate people to get out and buy a gun. And we saw in this past year before the election that Smith & Wesson, their stocks were outrageously high. Their profits were soaring. Same thing with Glock. And we kind of saw this across the board. So now that that fear has been taken away with Trump being the president-elect, we may start to see them plateau and steady out.
Michele Byington joining us this morning on Memphis Morning News. Michele, over the last few years, I noticed, and this may have happened in previous administrations, but just going from recent memory, anytime that there was any kind of shooting that involved a child or a family, or even even what would be domestic terrorism, it seems as if the administration seemed to somehow weave gun control into the narrative. Do you think some of that may have sparked some of the record gun sales over the past few years?
It's always possible. I think there are two big things to attribute record gun sales to. Number one is politics. Number two is current events. And so if you hear of your next-door neighbor getting shot by their husband or wife, you think, maybe I need to go purchase a gun because these people are right next to me. Or even with the Orlando shooting that happened this past summer, that sort of event sparked a lot of people out of fear, again, to go get a gun. But what we need to remember with domestic issues is that anybody who has a domestic criminal conviction cannot lawfully buy a gun.
Okay. All right. We don't talk a lot about guns here, so we really appreciate you joining us this morning on Memphis Morning News. During the campaign, we kept hearing about gun show loopholes. What on earth were they talking about?
That has to do with an individual who decides to go to a gun show and purchase a gun. So it is a private individual buying a gun from another private individual as opposed to a licensed dealer. Mm-hmm. And when we have a private citizen buying from a private citizen, there is no background check necessary there. And so that's what a lot of people call the loophole. However, I mean, as you're raising an eyebrow going, oh, my God, people are getting guns without a background check, what a lot of people don't know is that it is already the law. A person cannot sell to a felon, or they're committing a crime themselves. They can't sell to a person who has a protective order against them, so that's people who have issues with beating their spouses. You can't sell to an intoxicated person or a child. So there are laws in place that prevent private citizens from selling to criminals, basically. But that's the common vernacular now that's used is the gun show loophole has to do with no background checks are necessary for private citizens to sell to another private citizen.
Thank you for clearing that up, because every time I heard that, I got scared and ran into my safe space. So I feel a little bit better now. I can put my crayons down, Michele. Michele Byington's a gun law analyst and joining us on Memphis Morning News. So we're seeing, I guess, a little bit of a slowdown in the gun sales for now.
I guess my question for you would be, do we need more gun laws, or do we need to enforce the ones that we already have on the books? When people talk about gun control.
Did you know that there are 22,000 gun laws on the books? 22,000. I think we just need to enforce those bad boys and we'll be good.
Wow. And I know that there was like something in a commandment or something way back in the day on some stone that said don't kill somebody. I guess that one would probably 22,001, I guess. That would probably help as well. Michele, you've been absolutely delightful. Michele Byington, a gun law analyst, thank you so much for joining us on Memphis Morning News. Happy Thanksgiving. If you're on the road, safe travels.
Y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving as well.
Thank you. I knew she was from the South.
She said, y'all.
I knew she was from the South. She was extra friendly. I knew there was some Southern in there, and then the y'all confirmed it.
Over 20,000 gun laws.
And I was good. That's funny that you asked the gun show loophole law, because that's exactly what I was going to ask her about as well, because you heard there was one, you heard there wasn't one. So it's good to get a little clarity on that there are still rules in place, so laws you have to follow when you sell at a gun show.
I don't know if she's dating or if she's, if she has a husband. I wonder if she ever asked, if her, or if her significant other asked if she's going to go to the gun, wants to get tickets to the gun show.
Right.
Flex the biceps.
I'm sure she's heard that joke once or twice.
Yeah, it seems like she can take a joke too.